What you guys, got another video here for you. In this one, we're taking a look at how to build your own super fast USB device. Now, what you see in front of you is the Orico USB 4.0 NVMe SSD enclosure, and we're going to be putting in the XPG GAMMIX S70 blade 1TB version. This can actually do reads and writes of like 7,000, but don't expect those sort of speeds with the Orico USB 4.0 external enclosure. So this is the actual device here. Now, what are you getting for your money? This is around about £150. It's made of aluminium, and basically it's an enclosure which you put your NVMe drive into. Now, here is the specifications. Now, as I stated before, the specifications on their website are there, but it's all a little bit vague about what you can expect to get with your computer and your system. And I wanted to explain that a little bit more in this video rather than just show you the product and literally flame the product for not reaching the targets that I was expecting. Now, sometimes I'm guilty of rushing things and not explaining myself correctly, so I wanted to redo this for you. This is exactly what you can get in the kit. You don't get this ADATA XPG GAMMIX S70 blade 1TB PCIe Gen 4 NVMe drive. You're not going to get that. That is about £160 to buy right now. It does go on offer now and again, but as you can see here, it's a pretty fast drive. You're not going to reach the speeds of 7,400 reads to 6,400 writes on this particular external drive here. You can see this is the website which they're listing here, and there is some information here about reaching speeds of 2,700 MBS. Just to be clear, you are not going to reach the high speed of 2,700 MBS or the writing speed of 1,400 MBS. So to reach these sort of speeds, you're going to need to use USB 4.0, which hasn't been released yet. Now, also, you can use Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4, which I don't think Thunderbolt 4 has been released yet, but you can achieve them with Thunderbolt 3. Now, you can get Thunderbolt 3 on some PCs built into the motherboard, which I'll show you a little bit later on. So let's go ahead and show you what you get in the kit. You're getting your thermal pad, your screws, and you're getting your two cables. Now, this is your Thunderbolt 3 cable, which is your Type-C type cable connection on here. And again, we have USB 3.0 to Type-C on the end there. You won't get those speeds with that cable. You have to use the Thunderbolt 3 cable. You get the screwdriver, and you're going to get your user manual, and you get the unit itself. It's made of aluminium, which gives it some weight. There's one screw there and a Type-C connector on the back there, which we'll take a look at. So let's undo the screws so we can get access to the actual unit itself, so we can insert our NVMe drive here. Now, this NVMe drive is probably a bit overkill for this device, because we're not going to reach anywhere near the speeds that this NVMe drive is capable of. So you might want to find yourself a slightly cheaper type of drive which supports this device. Always check with the manufacturer what types of drives are suitable for this device before you buy them. So I'm going to screw down the actual NVMe drive into the unit itself. And once we've done this, all we need to do here is add the thermal pad. Now, some people were saying you don't want to cover the whole device with the thermal pad, but it does come with a full thermal pad, so I'm going to be using the full thermal pad. So I'm going to remove the plastic and basically seal this down. All we need to do now is put the enclosure back on and then screw it down, and we can plug it into the computer, and I'll show you some of the test results. Now, I'm going to add the Thunderbolt 3 benchmarks here. Now, this does support Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4, and it also supports USB 4.0, which hasn't been released yet. So let's take a look at the benchmarks here for Thunderbolt 3. This is running on an Intel-based system, and it also has a motherboard that does support Thunderbolt 3. Now, not all motherboards are going to support Thunderbolt 3, and they certainly won't be supporting USB 4.0 right now because it hasn't been released. So if you're looking for speeds like this, then you need to make sure you are using a computer that supports Thunderbolt 3. Now, with PCs, it's a little bit sparse on some of the motherboards where you can find Thunderbolt 3. Not all of them are going to support it. And this is why I don't think this device is for everyone. This computer that I'm using here has a pretty expensive motherboard in it, and it will support Thunderbolt 3. I never added it in the video before because I know it's not a very common thing to be added into a lot of motherboards. It's certainly not added into any AM4 motherboards. In fact, there's probably only one or two that actually support Thunderbolt 3. So you have to do your research to make sure. Now, if you're running an Intel system, there's a good chance that your system may support Thunderbolt 3. So do that research before you run out and buy something like this to get these sort of speeds, because you're not going to be able to achieve them unless it does support Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, or USB 4.0. So I hope I've made that clear. And this is the reason why I think this device is only for certain types of people that are running certain types of hardware. Now, if you're running a MacBook or something like that, I'm pretty sure that you're going to have Thunderbolt 3 and up on those systems. I'm not sure if Thunderbolt 3 has been released yet. Now, in yesterday's video, I did a benchmark with this motherboard, which does support Type-C connections, which is USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C connection on the back here. With that port, you are not going to reach those particular types of speeds that you see with the Thunderbolt 3 connection. They look the same, but they don't act the same. They're not the same type of speeds that you can achieve with that port. And this is something that I didn't want to get into because it can get a little bit complicated and it can confuse people. So I try to steer clear of it, because not everyone is interested in speeds and other things like that, because it'd be just a little bit too much information overload. But I was using a Type-C to Type-C cable, which come with the kit, which is a Thunderbolt 3 cable. And I was also plugging it into the back of my Type-C USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, which doesn't support the speeds that this device can handle, which means you're going to end up with speeds like this. Now, the masses are not going to understand what the different speeds are for the different types of connections that you're plugging into. So I run another benchmark here with a different piece of software just to give you an idea of the sort of transfer speeds that you can have from something like this using pretty much a standard Type-C connection on a PC, which is USB 3.2. Now, what makes it more confusing is not all motherboards are going to have the same types of ports on them. Type-C connections have only become really popular on the back of motherboards just recently. They were on some motherboards, but they wasn't on every motherboard. And some of those could be USB 3.1 Gen 1s, which are slightly slower than 3.2 Gen 2s. So you have to know what you're actually looking at when you're doing your research. Now, I did a test with this particular type of SSD, which is a Samsung 850, and it was on some cheap adapter. And as you can see here, we're getting pretty good speeds from this particular device, which is pretty cheap and available at around about £8 to £10 on Amazon, or maybe a little bit more. So it's pretty cheap. Now, you can also buy USB devices which are pretty fast as well. This one is not the fastest one you can get. It's the generation before, and this gets around about 200 reads and around about 120 writes or something along those lines, which is still pretty good for a USB flash drive. Now, this is the motherboard that I'm talking about. It's the X570 Phantom Gaming ITX motherboard. This is for AM4 socket. You'll see that this supports Type-C Thunderbolt 3, and this means that you will be able to get those particular speeds, the super fast speeds, with this motherboard. Unfortunately, this is one of two motherboards that actually support Thunderbolt 3 on the AMD socket. And this is the reason why these devices can be a bit misleading, and maybe I should have done a bit more of an in-depth video like I'm doing now. Now, you can purchase devices like these, which will be 1 terabyte drive inside, and you will get up to 1050 MBS, as you can see here, running on a USB 3.2 Type-C connection, which is on most motherboards nowadays, which is pretty common, and you will not be paying vast amounts of money for it. So if you're looking for something to put your games on or videos on or whatever it is that you're transferring from your phone or something along those lines, then these cheaper devices are a much better option for you. This one is not so good because it's not as fast, but I wanted to add it in there because it's still around about £145, which is the same price for an empty enclosure from Orico. So let's take a look at the USB specifications. So if you're looking on here, you should see USB 3.2 Gen 1, which will be a Type-C connection, but that only gives you 5 Gbps. That can be on some motherboards, earlier motherboards. The newer ones will be USB 3.2 Gen 2, which was the one you see on that Asus Tough Gaming, that give me 10 Gbps. That was around about 900 plus Mbps on that device. So that's what it was there. Now, if you want to reach speeds of the speeds they're recommending on their websites, which is 2000 Mbps, you will need a USB 4 Gen 3 times 2. You would need that. And this will give you the actual 40 Gbps on there. Now, they're not released yet, as far as I know, on PCs or anything like this. So if you are looking for those speeds, you'll have to use Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4. Now, Thunderbolt 3 is not on every single motherboard, as I've already explained earlier in the video. So I do think there needs to be a bit more transparency when it comes to the types of speeds that you can achieve with these devices. Not everyone is on the same level of technology. And again, if you're putting up something like USB 4, which most cases or most motherboards don't have USB 4 on them because it's not freely available yet. And it's the same thing with Thunderbolt 3. There's not going to be a lot of motherboards that support Thunderbolt 3. So it's just going to be for a very select few. Now, if you're running a Mac system, I'm pretty sure Thunderbolt 3 is going to be pretty common and you're probably going to be able to use that. Now, USB 4 is going to be compatible with Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4, and you'll be able to use that on Macs as well as on PCs as well. Maybe the USB interface needs to be simplified a little bit like Wi-Fi has with Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 6 and so on. Maybe they can find a simpler way of making it easier for people to understand. So here is the website for the Orico device here. If you're interested, it is pretty fast when you use it on the right type of connection and the right type of cable. You can achieve blazingly fast speeds, but you do need to have that Thunderbolt 3 and Thunderbolt 4 and USB 4 technology to be able to utilize it. So what's the pros and cons for the Orico external enclosure? Well, the pros are it's super fast when used on the correct type of port. Unfortunately, these are not freely available for every person on the planet who has a computer. A lot of those people are going to miss out with something like this. So it's going to be for a niche sort of group of people that want to, say, for instance, do photo editing or video editing, and they want to store all their stuff on here and work from this device. Or maybe they want to take their work with them and put it onto here and have super fast data transfer speeds with this particular device. Most of those people are going to have computers that are compatible with this type of hardware. It's a little bit on the pricey side at £150 in my personal opinion, and I would personally like to see it a little bit cheaper than what it actually is. But where this sort of device shines through is when you have large files that you want to data transfer from your computer to an external device like this, backwards and forwards, and you're working with large files. Something like this is an essential bit of kit, and people are willing to pay that sort of money for that particular data transfer speeds. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be for everyone because of the price point is pretty high with having to add an actual NVMe drive into this device. Anyway, with that said, I'll leave the choices up to you. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. My name has been Brian from bradtechcomputers.co.uk. Thanks again for watching, guys, and thanks for your continued support. Just want to say a quick shout out to all my YouTube members who have joined my YouTube members group. I really do appreciate the support, and I shall see you again for another video real soon. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.